In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jar Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
Now, national teams across the African continent are gearing up for the 5th and 6th rounds of matches in the CAF qualifiers for next year's FIFA World Cup finals. After a long break to make way for the Nations Cup qualifiers, we are now back on track for the World Cup. And for context as to what we are playing for, only the first place teams from the 9 groups labeled A to I will advance directly to the North America showpiece. There could be a 10th place for Africa, but to compete for that extra place, a national team will have to be one of 4 best runners-up in the current qualifying series. Now, if all that sounds too complex for your comprehension, don't worry. I have the right person in the studio to take us through and make us understand. His name is Jonathan McKinstry. Jonathan, welcome.
No, thank you very much, Peter. It's great to be here. I'm pleased for the invitation.
Let's start with, the way you write your name. We were confused here at the beginning. Some spelled it with 2 H's, and we thought, no, there should be only one after the T.
No,
but we're still getting that confusion. I mean, usually Jonathan is Jonath, but yours has an H.
Yeah, no, my mother decided to complicate it for everyone in the world. No, there is 2 H's in it. Historically, it's because I'm named after someone called John, but they didn't want the shortened name, so Jonathan, but they kept the John, John, at the beginning of it. So, yeah, I'm always pleasantly surprised when I get handed something that it has spelt it correctly. Even university diplomas, coaching qualifications, many have been sent back to say you need to rewrite the name on them over the years.
Fantastic. Listen, thanks for coming. You've been on the job now for actually exactly a week shy of 10 months. How has it been?
It's been good. Look, ultimately, there's been a few disappointments along the way, but overall, I think for me personally, the job has been good. The interaction with the players has been excellent. The support from the Federation really has been top class. When I was deciding to come back to West Africa, obviously I was in Sierra Leone for a very long time, 5 years, and Ghana before that. In that time, the quality of the football was really high, but logistically there was a lot of challenges. The organization almost got in the way of football development. Whereas you go out to Asia, you go out to East Africa, and even though the talent level may be of a lower standard than a lot of West African nations, organizationally, they're miles ahead. You never have to worry about hotels, flights, planning. It's all done really meticulously in countries like Rwanda, Kenya, out into Asia. And so coming back, I was a little bit nervous. I knew the talent would be extremely high here in the Gambia. That's easy to see from the outside. But I was prepared for maybe organizationally a little bit of chaos. But I was really pleased that actually when it comes to the senior national team, organization's been 5-star. The people we have inside the federation, Usman Drame especially, the team manager, They do such a fantastic job to make sure we really need for nothing when it comes to the national team, and that's been a real pleasant surprise. So
fantastic. But why did you want the job? I mean, you were doing so well with Goma here in Kenya.
Yeah, well, look, I think life's about opportunities, Peter. I never, people always say, where do you want to go next? And I don't necessarily, first of all, I don't think about next too much, because if you think about what's next, you trip over what's right in front of you. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's about doing the job that's right in the here and now. But then when opportunities are presented to you, you sort of, for me, you sit back. I don't really concern myself with where in the world they are. It's about the opportunity, and it's about the football. And so when you looked at the Gambia team, you looked at what they'd done recently in football, but you also saw this, what I always term as an explosion of footballing talent. Like, you speak to people around the football world, and it's incomprehensible, really, and unexplainable to a degree, how many footballers of a high-class level the Gambia is developing. And by the looks of it, is going to continue to develop for the next number of years with the amount of quality 15, 16, and 17-year-olds breaking through. So for me, one is someone who loves to work with high-quality players, but also someone who, if you look at my career, has always given youth a chance to break through. And for me, those two combinations of what's in the team now, but what's coming into the team over the coming years, was a really exciting prospect. And one that I just thought my personality and the way I go about coaching could help those players take that step. So I was excited by the opportunity. And when I get excited by something, I think, yeah, let's go and do that.
Fantastic. What started your interest in football and being a coach?
Oh, football was just, from a young boy in Ireland, I fell in love with the game. I remember my uncle took me, I think my first professional match was Northern Ireland versus Portugal, an international match under the lights at Windsor Park in Belfast. And Northern Ireland, like Rui Costa was playing for Portugal, Georgia Cadete was playing for Portugal. It was a great Portuguese team. And
who were the big names from Northern Ireland?
Well, Northern Ireland were the likes of Jim Magilton and sort of Neil Lennon and James Quinn, who actually scored. We actually won the game 2-1 against Portugal. And Northern Ireland at the time were nowhere. Like, I know in recent years we've qualified for Euros and been to World Cup playoffs, etc. But back then, in the early 90s, we were nowhere near tournaments. And so to beat Portugal at home with an absolute world-class goal from James Quinn, that just sort of ignited me under the lights. And even to this day, if you offer me to play a game during the day or at night, there's a bit of magic in football under the floodlights and a passionate full stadium. And so, I fell in love with the game from then, and supporting it, playing it as a youngster. But equally, I sort of knew, I was probably quite self-aware as a youngster, that by 16, 17, 18, I knew professional football wasn't going to be my path. But I always sort of understood the game. I was there every weekend following my local team, and I just felt I could see the game, if that makes sense. And so careers, guidance counselors and whatnot at school, and I decided to go and do early coaching badges when I was 16, 17, and I just enjoyed it, and it's been sort of one foot in front of the other ever since then.
And if you have a coaching philosophy, which I know you have, what's your philosophy?
I think for me, it's to go and attack and to entertain. We want to win football matches, but look, I grew up in the early 90s, and everyone in Ireland was wearing red when it came to the Premier League.
That's the best colour.
So they were wearing either Manchester United or Liverpool, but I'll tell you, Peter, I wasn't in red. I was in black and white. So I fell in love with that Kevin Keegan Newcastle United team. So, and anyone of that age who remembers that Kevin Keegan Newcastle United team, first with Andy Cole and Brian Kilcline, etc., breaking through, but then into the era of David Ginola, Les Ferdinand, Alan Shearer, Peter Beardsley. This was a team that played front foot football, who wanted to entertain, and even Kevin Keegan as a coach, for all maybe his flaws as well, he was someone who looked at football and said, football is a working class sport. The people who are filling the stadiums and paying their hard-earned money, especially in Newcastle, are working hard, manual labour jobs, and they want to come on a Saturday and they want to go away having, almost being at the theatre. They want to have seen something that entertains them. Mm-hmm. Yes, they want to win, but they want to win in a certain way. And even if you lose, if you've went out in an authentic way and tried to win in the right way, let's say, then they'll forgive you for that. They'll forgive you for that. So for me, that's always been a staple of how I want to play the game. Yes, we want to win. Yes, we want to be intelligent. But we want to... Football's an entertainment sport.
Absolutely, absolutely. What are some of the challenges you face as a coach?
Oh, how long do we have? There's...
Let's do the biggest ones.
No, I think, look, ultimately here with international football, it's time. We simply have no time with the players. If you take, for example, we're playing Kenya on Thursday this week. We have players who will be playing for their clubs on Sunday. They'll be flying down to us on Monday.
Oh, wow.
They might get some massage when they arrive in camp, but we will train on Tuesday with the entire team. Monday, some people will train, but Tuesday is the first full session we'll have. And then on Wednesday, we'll only do 45, 50 minutes because we want to keep the energy for the next day. And so really we have 1.5 training sessions. The guys haven't seen each other for 5 months since November. So after a 5-month break, you've got 1.5 training sessions to prepare for a World Cup qualifier. So at international level, time is your biggest enemy. We can prepare all we want away. We've got lots of time. We analyze. We understand everything about our opponents, about ourselves. But in terms of that practical, in-person contact time, it's so limited. So international football, that's definitely the biggest challenge we face.
It's not all about challenges. I'm sure there are rewards as well. What are some of the biggest rewards of being a coach?
I think just seeing your players succeed. One of my greatest things, I remember, I think it might have been Sir Alex Ferguson said this a number of years ago.
Please, you can find a better name.
Oh, no, but it definitely, Sir Alex was one person who said, the art of being a top coach or a top manager was helping somebody to do something that they thought wasn't possible. So when we meet so many of these players that maybe, whilst they have confidence, maybe they have a glass ceiling to their confidence of where can I truly get to, what can I truly achieve as an individual, as a player. And I think helping those people to sort of release themselves from that and to really achieve something special. I think those, when you look back at the end of your career, I think you'll remember those players and those people that you were able to impact to go and achieve more than they ever dreamed of. So that's the one that you sort of sit at night and think, I'm pleased I do this job.
And what are some personal goals you feel you achieved, over the years?
Oh, look, for me, having not been a professional footballer, I mentioned sort of, school careers guidance officers. I remember when I was 16, 17 saying in one of those meetings that I wanted to be a professional football coach. I wanted to manage at the top level. And I was told it wasn't realistic. Because at that stage, you've got to remember, Jose Mourinho hadn't arrived yet. Villas-Boas, all these guys who are career coaches didn't really exist. And I was told it wasn't realistic, that you had to be a pro player to be a pro coach. And I sort of understand it, but for me, I was just like, no, I'm going to use that as fuel. You tell me I can't do it, I'm going to go and do it. So the fact that this was considered impossible to some people 25 years ago, the fact that I've went and I've been able to coach, top national teams, top players, to win championships, how few coaches, I think less than probably 2 or 3% of coaches actually win trophies. Most of us struggle away for 20, 30, 40 years and never win anything. I've been fortunate enough to put 4 trophies in the cabinet in a short career, so... Yeah, but look, there's a long way to go, I hope. I'm turning 40 this year, so
exactly.
I'm hoping there's another 30 plus years of this, and let's see. I'm always looking at what's the next thing to achieve, and then at the end of it, we can count up what we've managed to collect.
And apart from failing to be a professional footballer, what other personal goals you feel you did not achieve?
I don't know. I think for me, because from such a young age, I've always had such a clear vision of what I wanted to do in terms of coaching the professional game and coaching in big tournaments and big clubs and big countries. So really, there's not a lot from football-wise. I think there's been a few disappointments along the way, missing out on certain things, certain trophies, certain tournaments, but that's the nature of the game. Not everyone can win every time. And so for me, I don't think there's been many misses, really. And it's just about... I also don't... Look, for me, I've got a big philosophy in life, and I share it with my players, is like, all you can do today is try and be better than you were yesterday. Even if it's just 1%. And if we do that, that's the way everything I do, I try and be better than yesterday. And at the end of it, we'll see what we achieve. But if I'm continually adding and continually growing, I I think I'll be happy with it at the end.
Fantastic. We're talking to Jonathan McKinstry, John for short. He's the head coach of the Gambia national men's senior team known as the Scorpions. He was appointed only in May of last year. You've been on the job now for 10 months. Review for us, the past 10 months.
Yeah, so I think, there's two sides to it. Look, I think we have to go with the headline is that, and I'll fully take ownership of it, is that we didn't qualify for AFCON. That was a big goal. The team had qualified 2 times in a row for the first ever time and then again. Mm-hmm. And the aim was to go 3 times in a row. And we fell, ultimately, in the analysis of it, we fell 1 goal short. Had we scored 1 more goal in a number of our fixtures, we would have been at the tournament. Sure. So on such fine dividing lines are, success and failure in this game. So that's the big frustration. But overall, we've seen so much progress. When I came to the job, part of the reason I came into this job, part of the reason the GFF wanted me, was they wanted to change how football was played. Because previously the team had been successful, but in a very low block, defend, play on the counter-attack, set pieces.
Many Gambians thought, they played a boring game. Yeah. Winning game, boring game.
Yeah, but look, I also think you have to give huge credit to the staff there, because for me, I think one of the most challenging things in football is to get a team to play successfully in a style that is contrary to their identity, to their national identity. And so the national identity here in the Gambia is so effervescent, so energetic, so positive, that to then play a style of football that didn't reflect that is an extremely difficult thing to implement and implement well. So I think you've got to hold your hands up and say, yes, maybe people didn't enjoy watching it or playing in it, but to do that was not an easy task for the previous staff. So I think full credit has to be given. But one thing was that I came in and it said, we want to go and play this more, let's call it this sort of Red Bull, Liverpool, Leeds United style of football, where we go and play on the front foot, we press the game, we try to get, turnovers, quick, fast. We're not trying to be, the Barcelona of Pep Guardiola, where it's tiki-taka. Mm-hmm. We want to play football, we want to have the ball on the grass, but we want to go forward much quicker than that and use the talents, not just that we have, but that are breaking through the U20 World Cup team that did so well last year, and incorporate them. So that lined up extremely well with my footballing idea, my philosophy, if you want to use that word. Mm-hmm. And so and I think we've taken big steps towards that. I think the eye test, as I always say, when you look at it, are we playing a different, more attacking, more aggressive style of football? I think the answer to that's yes, from the feedback I've got from both my staff and the players and the supporters. But then also when you dive into the data and the statistics, a lot of the metrics that we have that would sort of signpost progress, we are making good progress in all of them. So, for me, big disappointment was AFCON, and you can never run away from the fact that football's about going to tournaments, and if you don't do that in the medium to long term, you're going to have a problem. Absolutely. But in terms of the task of developing the team in a certain direction, we're very much on track, and hopefully in the coming games we're going to take another 1 or 2 big steps in that direction. And I'm very pleased with how the team's playing.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jaha Oil also target to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
I'm not going to ask you to discuss tactics, especially going into these two crucial matches, Kenya and Ivory Coast. But how do you prepare your teams?
So at international level, like we said, we don't have a lot of time with the players on the field, so they get a lot of pre-information from us. So even we don't cloud their head prior to their final club game, but for example, we have, I think, 15 or 16 of our players who are in the camp this week. Will be playing tomorrow afternoon on Saturday, and we are basically, whilst they're on the field, they will get into their email, into their mobile phone. They'll get video clips, they'll get, certain, graphics, each individualized to the player that says, okay, this is what we need you to do in the game against Kenya, first of all, what you can expect that we'll be doing in training on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so they're very clear on, do this, ABC, don't do this, ABC. And so they come into the camp really understanding their role for the next few days. And then when they get on the camp, again, we have sort of classroom sessions, obviously engaging the brain, not the feet. And then we try and implement it out on the grass. But the nice thing about footballers at the top level of the game, playing in the top 5 leagues and top professional leagues like we have, is they're able to absorb information. They're able to take that on board. And so we give them a lot of stuff. So as they're on that flight coming down to the Gambia or to Abidjan, as it will be this week, on their iPads, they're going to have video clips to watch. They're going to have short presentations to watch, so that when they step into the hotel, the training camp has already begun remotely. And so, that's a big part about preparing the teams. But also, we're checking in on players all the time. For me, I go and visit the players. I travel around Europe a lot. We're on the phone with a lot of our players regularly every week. And again, I'll watch their games. And when we're discussing their club games afterwards, I'll be saying, okay, I really liked what you did here. Let's make sure we keep that in mind for when you come back in with the Scorpions. So, yeah.
As a head coach, manager, one is required to have man management abilities. How do you handle egos and player conflict?
Yeah, so look, I think one of the big things for me is you got to treat footballers as human beings. I think a lot of people look at footballers and see them as machines, and just they go out and they kick a ball and they run around for 90 minutes. But in essence, footballers, their lives are not separate from their professions. You or I, if we had an issue at home, family member was ill, or maybe there was financial issues, it would probably affect our professional performance. Human nature is it's impossible not to. I think when it comes to sports people, we forget that. So one of the things is, for me, I'm always very engaged with what's going on in the players' lives, and not to get intrusive, but so that they know if there's anything going on, football or not football, that they think I might be able to help with, even just as a sounding board. Then I'm here. I'm available for that. And then I think it's like you said with egos, one of the things I talk to the players all the time about is gratitude, is gratefulness. And I remember it was Michael J. Fox, I think, said it. And he said, he has this quote that says, with gratitude, enthusiasm is natural. And so I say to the players and everyone, the staff, it's like, I think we should take stock of what's going well in our lives, how fortunate we are, how grateful we should be. Because if you do that in a global context of how much you have when other people have not, I think you turn up and you work hard every single day. And then mixed in with that mantra of mine of try and be 1% better. I'm not asking you to be an A-grade player. I'm just asking you to try and be the best version of yourself. And with that, it helps us stay humble. It helps us stay focused on the process of development. And then ultimately, look, I've got to disappoint people. I had to disappoint some people this week. I made a few tough phone calls to say, guys, you're not going to be in the squad this week. But equally, I show them the respect of telling them that directly. I'm not sending them a text message. I'm not, letting them see the list be revealed online. And even though it's a difficult conversation, it's more difficult for them than it is for me. And so I think that shows a level of respect for people. And when you mix all these things together, I think the players can understand, hey, we're in it together, the coach and the coaching staff. Whilst they might not make decisions I agree with all the time, I respect the decision they're making. And with that, it just helps us. Yeah.
And just on that point of having to disappoint people, I mean, because ultimately you may have upwards of 50 professional footballers, but you can only select 24, like you just did.
192.
That's what you have.
That 192 professional footballers.
That's what the Gambia now has.
The Gambia has.
Wow, that's a lot. But you can only use 24 at a time. Yes. Yeah, very good. So a question in that regard. Good morning, Uncle Peter. I will be grateful to know what has been done to convince Madi Kamara to play for the Gambia. Noha Sonko complained about the players' welfare not being taken seriously, and that was the reason he couldn't commit to honor any more invitations to the national team. What's being done about that? And cases he cited were the plane issue to Ivory Coast, an earthquake or something of the sort in Morocco before a match against Congo. Ibu Toure has been maintained in the team. Is there any reason why he did not make the final list?
Yeah. So Mehdi Kamara is someone obviously playing at a very high level, but in essence, we've been in contact. We've spoken with his people, we've spoken with his father, and there's just not the interest, at the moment.
Okay. So Gambia wants him, but apparently he doesn't want Gambia yet.
Yeah. And that's it. What I would say is, and I wouldn't go into the term we want him. We would like him to be available for consideration, because I also think you've got to be very respectful of the players who are in the team, because, Mehdi plays in an offensive position, but look at the players who are in our offensive positions.
For those who don't know the team he plays for, what team does he play for?
He's Marseille, isn't he? Yeah. So it's Brest. Sorry, he's Brest. He plays an offensive position. And you look at the players we have in the offensive positions in terms of Moussa Barrow, in terms of Yankuba Minte, in terms of Ali Sow, all of these players who, Ablai Jallo, just because Mehdi would become available to us at one point in time does not mean he immediately goes into the team. You have to compete with these other players in the team. And yes, he's had a very good season at Brest, but you have to compete for the position. But look, it's a non-factor because, we have reached out, we've had those conversations, and there's not the interest at this moment in time for him to play. And so, there's no point spending a huge amount of time. People can only say no to you so many times. For Noah, what you've said about Noah is not something that him and I have spoken about in terms of those specific things. Noah moved to his team in Turkey, his new team in Turkey. He's doing extremely well. And our conversations have been that he wanted to step away from the national team, that he just wants to focus on, his club form at the moment. And in the future, there may come a moment where he feels he can balance, that the national team might be an option again. But for us, the door is always open, for Noah to come and compete. He's having a really good season. We're really pleased with what's happening for him there in Turkey. But the conversations him and I have had over the number of months, the most recent time, that we exchanged information was back in January. But he wants to focus on what he's doing at club level, wants to focus on his family. And the Ibu Toure situation, obviously Ibu's a very important player for us. Basically, for this camp, Ibu asked not to be considered. So there's no injury, there's no issue, but Ibu asked not to be considered because I think, as people may or may not be aware, in League One and League Two in England, they don't break for the internationals unless they have more than 3 first-team players called up. Stockport do not have that on this occasion, and they have a big game against Wrexham this coming weekend, or next weekend. And obviously Stockport are pushing for promotion, Wrexham are pushing for promotion. We've got a couple of Gambians there as well. And Ibu he spoke to me about it, and he said, look, coach, I want to help my club team with this big game against Wrexham as we try to get promotion. And again, I would love to have Ibu with us. I think he's played every single minute since I've become coach. But yeah, it's his decision. You know, this is not. I always say to players, this is not prison. You get to make a decision whether you're in or you're out. We are not handcuffing you to the bed, sort of thing.
That's
so,
a nice way of putting it. Well, one of your regrets, taking this job, you said very early on in this conversation, was not making it to the Africa Cup of Nations. So somebody writes in, "Good morning, Uncle Peter. Coach is now addressing you. Will you resign if you fail to qualify for AFCON 2027 to be jointly hosted by Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania?" Ali Wenger is the sender.
Well, my current contract is up before those qualifiers, so we'll see if I sign a new contract before those qualifiers. That's a question for then. But yeah, at the moment we're fully focused on the next year and, you know, development of the team and how we go, and then we'll look at AFCON 27 beyond that.
Good morning, Uncle Peter. Can you ask your guest for me why he is not calling Aliou Diatta up? Aliou Diatta plays in the Egyptian Premier League. He's a regular starter there. He, meaning the coach, called players that are playing in third-level leagues in other countries.
Yeah, so Aliou's been doing really well this season. Aliou's a player who's had an interesting career. He's moved around a lot. You know, he was here, he was in France, he then came back down to Senegal, he went to Egypt. And, you know, he's 29 now. He turns 30 in a few months. And over the course of the last 10 years, he's basically spent 1 or 2 seasons at every single club, never really settling. He's ended up at El Gouna, and he settled in. Last season, he hardly played. He sort of played about 20% of the minutes last season. This season, he's done better. He's played about 60% of the minutes this season. So last 6 or 7 games, he started every one of them. Prior to that, he was in and out. And so he's doing better, there's no doubt about that. But one of the things, you know, and I said this about the players we have called up in this camp because we've got a few new faces. Appearing for the national team generally is about consistency of performance. You know, so you look at someone like Moussa Dibaga, who's a new goalkeeper addition, who's playing at Inverness in Scotland. Moussa turned professional. He's only 24, signed his first professional contract last year, and has been the #1 goalkeeper all season for Inverness. And he has won man of the match on a number of times. He's saved a good few penalties this season, which is nice. But over 24-25 games, he has shown a consistency of performance, not over 5 or 6 games or 7 games, because that's what we want to see. Because international level is a step up. And so we need to see at club level, is there a consistency of performance? And so, for example, last year when I came in, it wasn't right time for someone like Jibril Silla, who's at Tanzania, because he'd broken into the Azam team, and we were like, yes, good, we're monitoring. But breaking in and having 5 or 6 games is not good enough for international football, not when you have the amount of talent that the Gambia has. If we only had 1 or 2 professional players, then maybe that would get you into the team, and maybe it got you into the Scorpions team 15 years ago. But now the competition level is so high that you need to show consistency of performance. And, you know, the point on Silla, when he broke in, he was doing well, monitoring, but now, 13 months on, in terms of him having really broken into the Azam team, not only is he playing regularly, but in the last 3 months, let's say, he started to really add goals and assists to his game from that offensive wing position. And so now we're going, okay, consistency of performance, that's opening the door into the national team for you. And so what I would say for someone like Aliou is that if you can extend this sort of 6, 7, 8 game run in the team over until right till the end of the season, that you are the #1 starting left back at El Gouna, you then come into the conversation. But then the other side of it is, Peter, and you know, some people might not like this point, I also look at players who are finally breaking through. Because, you know, someone like Aliou, he's doing very well now, but it's taken him quite a journey to this point. And he's about to turn 30. So is he the long-term future, or is someone like Sani Sanyang, who's not quite broken through yet at CSKA Sofia? He's still in the squad. He's getting some minutes, so he's not ready quite yet for the national team. But he's only 20, 21. And so you also have to balance it with, okay...
And it seems a delicate balancing act.
So, and the nature of it is you can't please everybody all of the time. You know?
Absolutely. Which, you know, leads me to ask, I mean, how do you keep all of them motivated? You have 100 plus to select from. But at any given time, you can't do more than 25.
Look, I think for me it's about honesty and authenticity. I don't lie to the players. If I think they're not doing what I need them to do, I tell them directly. I don't tell people, hey, you're doing a great job, to then not select them. They might be doing well, and I'll say to them, just like we've just spoken about Aliou in Egypt. I've been very clear of what we think he's doing well, but I'm also clear on what needs to happen in order to get into the squad or into consideration for the squad. But then the nature of football is you're also in a direct competition, a direct race with other players. Sure. So, for example, we might take the central midfield position at the moment. We have so many players who are playing 90 minutes every single week for their club in the Scottish Premier League, in France League 2, in Serie B, and all top leagues. And we can't pick them all.
No.
And do they in themselves will honestly believe that they should be playing? And I agree. They deserve to play. But unfortunately, there's only 2 or 3 places in the team. And I can be honest with them, but sometimes I have to say, and it's a cruel world, I have to say, look, I just think at this moment in time, he is doing better than you are. He is a better option than you are. That's no criticism of your game. I just think he is a better option today. That doesn't mean tomorrow he will be a better option, but it does mean today. It's my choice, and you can dislike me for it, but at least I'm being honest with you about the reasons.
Jonathan, thank you very much for coming in. We already eaten, 4 or 5 minutes into someone else's time. But how would you like, to end this conversation as you prepare to fly out to Côte d'Ivoire, for 2, I call them high-stakes games? Mathematically, we could still qualify if everybody fails to win, and we're the only team that is winning. But what message might you have for, I will describe them as impatient Gambian fans, one of whom I am?
Look, I think the message is, and I hope you see this when we play, is that we're always giving 101% for the cause, that there is no stone left unturned at trying to find top performance, and with top performance, results will come. So, stick with us, be part of that journey as we develop the team, and, our big aim is to win football matches and to qualify for tournaments, but we can only do that, I've said before, everyone together. We move forward, we move together, and if we do that, we can achieve something special.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan, and break a leg.
Thank you very much.
That's Jonathan McKinstry, head coach of the Scorpions. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Coffee Time. It's also the last for the week. Thank you very much for accompanying us throughout this week.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jar Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.